another episode of Tales from the Forlorn Dopes. I am your host, Cybersmily.
Wisdom 000, and greetings programs.
Yes, greetings everyone, and welcome to another installment of us rambling on. This week, for a change, we decided not to interview anybody, um, which I think we had a great, 4 episodes straight that we were able to line up some people.
Yeah, and more interviews on the way.
Yeah, yeah, I think it was really great talking to all those guys.
It was fantastic, but we do need to catch up on some stuff. Uh,
Very
so
true.
that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna we're gonna play catch up, talk about some of the new products that have been released, talk about the media, talk about all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, so you want to get started into the media? I think
Yeah, let's
talk a little
let's
bit.
talk about what's going on in the world of in the world of the cyberpunk genre.
So what I heard is they're actually doing Neuromancer, and it's going to be on Apple TV. Uh,
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
I have yet to find any fully confirmed, but it sounds like it's going to be a definite maybe.
I mean, it's been a definite maybe for the last 30 years.
True.
So any kind of progress forward on a Neuromancer adaptation is good. I'm not too keen on it being on Apple TV because I don't have it, but
Yes, and that's
uh,
that's that's my boat as well. Been
there's
strict
just too many streaming services
Yeah.
nowadays.
And told by the wife that if I want Apple, I have to sacrifice one of my other streams. So
Yeah, and I don't know. I really hate supporting Apple at all. So
yeah, same here. Other things. So there's a series on Prime called Citadel, and we were talking a little bit about that. So I think looking at that with because they have some minor implants and kind of high tech. Um, it just
it's,
seems like it's a very
I mean,
cyberpunk
it's
adjacent.
yeah, yeah, it's cyberpunk espionage, and I mean that hits all my buttons right there.
Yeah,
It's not very far future, but it's definitely like advanced technology and high stakes espionage.
yep.
Um,
I'm about the fifth or fourth episode in so far.
I like the basic premise is that these espionage agents who work for this group called Citadel, uh, which apparently is like above the CIA, above any of that. They have these implants that allow their memories to not only be downloaded, but also like temporarily erased to keep them from like spilling the beans if they get captured or anything like that. And that's a really cool premise. I like that.
Yeah, especially for corporate controlled assets. Um,
Yeah, like that is something you could easily slip into your game.
yep.
And all these, like, there are so many. Over the years, I've seen so many cyberpunk scenarios uh, put out there where you wake up in a room and you don't have any memories, and this seems to really come directly from that concept. There are just numerous campaigns that people have started that had the very same
Yep.
concept, just not. I don't want to say not as thought out as this, but maybe not as explored in this manner before.
Right. Um, Also, getting back to Neuromancer, there's nothing on their IMDb, so I think reportedly, I think there's just a still in development type of thing. But Miles Teller is reportedly looking to join the series as Case.
Ooh.
I would love to know who they're picking for Molly.
Yeah, I mean she's the important one. Really, any schmuck can play Case. He's not. It's not a very physically demanding role. Whereas Molly is the prototype for badass assassin cyborg chick. I mean,
Yeah,
she laid the groundwork that allowed us to have characters like Major Motoko Kusanagi and you know characters of her ilk.
yeah, yeah. There's another thing coming out called The Creator. Um, it's from the director Gareth Edwards, who did Rogue One. Supposedly that's coming out next year. Um,
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. Information so far has been kind of slim, but it's got a good premise.
yeah, and Ken Watanabe. Um, they have
I
some
I'll
visuals.
watch that dude read the phone book. He's a phenomenal actor.
Well, it looks like they already have a trailer out, so
Oh, I have not seen that.
yeah. Here, let me share a link I found. I'm gonna put it on Disc or not Discord, Twitch. Um, but yeah, it looks really interesting. Um, Not sure how far in the future it is, but we'll see. There's a couple of other things that kind of floated across my radar that apparently came out before. One is called Artifice Girl, the Artifice Girl. A team of special agents discover a revolutionary program to bait trap online predators. After teaming up with the program's troubled developer, they soon find that the AI is rapidly advancing beyond its original purpose. Um,
Oh, that's that sounds pretty cool. I
yeah,
have not heard of that one.
it
That.
supposedly came out last year, 2022, but I don't. Lance Lance Hendrickson is in it.
Holy shit! I love that dude. And
It must have like come out on a stream. I don't know. So there's that, and then there was another thing that I found called Interface. After tragically losing their father, two sisters try to save their estranged mother by tracking down an interface machine across the multiverse that will allow them to go into her mind and bring her back from a coma.
mm,
Um, I think this is a European movie, so I don't think it's been released in America yet.
yeah, I will have to keep my eye out for that one.
And
That's
that came out last year too.
I know the yeah. I mean, like certain like really low budget companies are keep putting out like cyberpunk and cyberpunk adjacent stuff. Um, but the stuff that comes out of Europe always seems to be, you know, it's always watchable. It's always a little bit next level in how they present it. Like the budgets aren't always that great. The special effects can be kind of lacking, but the stories are usually tip top.
Well, the trailer looks interesting. Um, I mean, it looks like it could be very low budget, but you know, but again, depending upon the story, you know. Um,
Yeah.
Other things that I believe are coming out this year is something called Simulant, which is basically artificial people who are basically robots, right? And it appears that the robots are starting to become. I the trailer seems like they're infected with a virus that causes them to get away from their normal programming, right? So the Asimov criteria of how robots are programmed, right, not to do any harm to humans in your action. If your action subsequently does harm, all those three rules of robots or the three laws. Um, so it looks like it's kind of that thing in which a simulant is being made self-aware. That's supposed to be coming out soon. The other thing that kind of piqued my interest, and I know it's a Disney film, and it's definitely a family-oriented film. So how can it be cyberpunk it, right? Because you always have that dystopia. But there's a thing called Crater, which it looks like kids who grew up on the moon and they take like a lunar rover to go and explore, and it's kind of a little bit of adventure. For me, I just want to watch it for inspiration towards my High Rider campaign, right? And how
Sure.
Luna would behave and get some like visuals and other kind of like how they interpret life on the moon would be. I think they're going to get the gravity wrong, but that's just me.
Well, they always do. I mean, they always do, with the exception of the Expanse, and even then, it was
It was short
even
lived.
then it was short lived. Uh, it's if you go realistic, you up the budget like just to levels that can't be sustained in a series or a low budget film.
Yep,
Um, so you've always got to have some kind of excuse as to why they're walking around.
exactly. Oh, one other thing that I came across was because I was reading up on African futurism, mainly
Yeah.
because I want to incorporate that into my High Rider campaign. Apparently, Idris Elba is working
Oh
with
yeah.
Crunchyroll, and they're
hmm
developing a animated series called Dantai. I think that's
I'm
how you
I'm very
pronounce it.
much looking forward to that.
So you heard about it.
Yeah, and the art for it looks phenomenal.
I have yet to
Um,
see any of the art.
I've just seen little bits and pieces, but it's definitely high concept. It's I haven't seen any actual motion, so I don't know what the actual quality of the animation is going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
But the bits of art that I have seen, I mean, they look top grade. Uh, definitely on my excited to watch list.
Yeah, I mean the premise, and I want to get the actually what the description was, but basically it was like a biotech uh, kind of area. Where was that blurb? They gave a description. Is it? Ah, Dante is an Afrofuturistic sci-fi series set in a city where the rise of biotechnology has created an ever-widening gap between the haves and the have-nots, according to Crunchyroll.
Yeah, it's definitely something to keep your eyes out for. Not to mention, I've yet to see Idris Elba get involved with anything that wasn't worth watching.
Yes.
Plus, I mean, he's going to be the main focus of the
Ex-
Phantom Liberty expansion for 2077,
yep.
so it's all adjacent.
Which kind of rolls into that whole subject of
Yeah.
when's that coming out. So, according to CDPR, they're going to start their campaign of advertisement next month. Whether it's going to be a very short campaign, I have a feeling it will be. because I think they learned from their lessons on 2077 for their launch.
We can sure hope.
That don't start expectations until you're fully ready to pull the trigger, as it were.
Yeah, don't give us release dates until it's ready to go.
But yeah, they tweeted out. Um, I forgot what card from the game they posted, but basically it was like things are coming soon. I'm trying to remember the actual post. I think I pushed it out somewhere. Yeah, here it is.
I'm just glad that they're staying on top of putting out information as it happens, as opposed to uh, throwing out a bunch of stuff that they're promising
Yes. Yeah, so a week
uh,
ago they
that they
put
have no way of delivering.
on their Twitter account, they posted the Wheel of Fortune. The Wheel of Fortune means that change is coming. One's destiny could turn out for the better or the worse, yet it's also bears the promise of new possibilities. The wheel reminds us that nobody remains at the top forever. There you go. But also, not every situation is hopeless. So that, I mean, just reading that first thing that change is coming kind of
Yeah, I mean, to be
signifies.
honest, with Phantom Liberty, I am so very torn because on the one hand, I don't want spoilers for it. I got too many spoilers for 2077 before it came out. Um, so I'm trying not to watch any like anything that might hint at what to expect about the storyline of the game
Yep,
itself. I'm trying to avoid that.
I agree.
Um, on the other hand, there are so many like story elements that I personally want to see with Phantom Liberty that it just it's a constant struggle of, do I watch it? No, I don't want to watch it. No, I do want to watch it. No, I don't want to watch it. Oh, but it's there. Um, I, I, I mean, there are some things that realistically I just know not to expect, no matter how much I may want them. Uh, like I really want to raid Crystal Palace. I know that's not gonna fucking happen. I know that. But man, was that teaser cool at the end of the first game. And if you're listening to this podcast and you haven't made it that far in the game yet,
Well,
sorry, it's been out several years.
and if you chose that ending,
Yeah. Uh, but I mean, really, if you're playing Cyberpunk 2077, you should. There's no excuse not to go through all the different endings because the way the game ends off, uh, you're just there.
very true.
Um, with the exception of the secret ending, but that's a whole nother kettle of fish.
Yep.
Um,
But I think with even if you don't get Phantom Liberty, they've been talking about a major patch as well, which is supposedly
yeah,
going to introduce a better police system. They also
where they
talk,
actually chase you.
yeah, they talk about I think combat with your car, so you can actually shoot from your car, or
That's been needed for a long time.
yeah. So, and I think even when they did their quarterly report, it still looked like there's quite a few developers on the base game. So I think there's still going to be a lot of enhancements to the base game. So even if you don't buy Phantom Liberty, uh, I think there's still going to be things that you can use and play with. Seeing as they
Yeah,
hired quite a few of the mod
community.
developers, yeah. But yeah, speaking of the
Uh,
mod stuff, the stuff that those guys are coming out with are just it's just been crazy stuff.
man, I love playing on consoles. I do. I do. Um, but holy shit, do I wish I had a machine that could run 2077 just so I could get the mods. Just Hell, just for a flashlight. I just want a flashlight. I want to see all the details in the dark.
I don't know if I know someone was working on a flashlight mod, but I don't know if it actually came out. Um,
I tell you, I tell you what I have been playing lately, and not to move too far away from 2077, but
yep.
I've been playing a game called The Ascent lately, and it's an isometric view, which I don't really care for, but it's basically Gauntlet with guns, where your characters run up and down this giant arcology. Uh, and I'm calling it cyberpunk adjacent because there's aliens. But other than the aliens, I mean, there's you can hook your character up with cybernetics, you can like all sorts of guns, all sorts of groovy stuff. With the exception of the aliens, it's pretty damn cyberpunk. I like I said, I don't really tend to go for top-down games, but the amount of detail that they've put into this game is mind-blowing.
Really?
Uh, yeah, there is a camera feature for it, which is kind of weird for an isometric game, you'd think. But the camera basically turns it into a 3D experience,
Mm-hmm.
and like you can like clip through walls with the camera and just see that they've added detail like for miles out. Uh, like things that you would normally never ever get a chance to look at, you can like have the camera travel way over there and just check out the detail, and it's utterly mind blowing. Before they put it on console, I know even PC gamers were like talking about how there's just so much going on uh, that it kind of lags up their machines. And you would think like an isometric view game doing this, but yeah, it's real.
So, what's the
Um,
name of it again? Ascension?
it's called The Ascent,
The Ascent.
and the soundtrack sounds like, I mean, it's top quality. It sounds very much like something Yoko Kanno would do, or who's the guy who did the Akira soundtrack? It sounds very much like that, which is a really big claim to make. But you play it and you tell me. Um, it's it's well worth your time. Yeah, play The Ascent. It'll give you a bit of a fix for your Jones on cyberpunk video gaming for a while until Phantom Liberty, or at least the update, comes out. And it's you can play it alone or you can play it with your friends. They can just join your campaign and it's all groovy. It's cooperative. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. All right. I will definitely check that out. Yeah. So that I'm looking forward to next month, which is coming up quick. So we got 3 weeks from now until our next episode. So hopefully we'll get some news about what's going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other things in the media. Um, so I'm trying to think
If you've
back.
been
Like,
waiting
go ahead.
if you've been waiting for the trades to be released for the Cyberpunk comics from Dark Horse, I think they've all been released now, so you don't have to try and hunt down individual issues. You can just pick them up in trade paperback format, which is the better way to read them anyway. You get that big chunk, you get the whole story.
I'm hoping that
Uh,
Dark Horse puts out some more.
yeah, that's always the dream. But the fact that we got anything at all, it's the dream.
True.
And I think with Phantom Liberty, we'll probably see another resurgence.
I hope so.
Uh, Edgerunners gave us enough of one. Um,
And that's the thing. I'm
yeah,
surprised they didn't. Dark Horse didn't do a version of Edgerunners in comic book form.
yeah, you would think. I don't know what their relationship to Studio Trigger is necessarily. I know they're one of the larger, anime importers or manga importers, up there with like Viz but I don't know. You would think some kind of deal would have been worked out, where they would have some kind of adaptation for Edgerunners. Even if it was just like a motion comic where they just take the stills directly from the anime and add word bubbles. I think I'd go for that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But they do them, and hopefully, I would love to see more because all the series I think are well worth the money.
Yeah. Um, you never, I'm never not amazed that I've actually got comics based directly from the franchise in my hands at any given moment. Uh, we've spoken many times about how just like we would daydream back in the 90s about, what a comic or what an anime would look like. And now to have these as a reality, it still blows my mind. It will never not blow my mind. That 30 years after a niche system within a niche hobby uh, gets this kind of love after the franchise had been, I mean, all but dead, like kept on life support by internet content for uh, 10, 15, 20 years. For it to come back in a way like this, just it amazes me. I'm in awe of it.
Oh, most definitely. Um, yeah, so hopefully we'll see more. Uh, I know there's work on a cyberpunk novel for 2077.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on if, and again, one of the I think the issues of doing anything in red or 2020 is the problem of who owns what and how you have to collaborate between the two. But who knows? We might see some novel series from Red. I know, but again, I don't know if game novels are still as popular as they were back in the 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah. I mean, the heyday, of course, the 90s and 2000s with all the, Forgotten Realms stuff and just all the giant glut of Dungeons and Dragons novels and short stories and whatnot that were coming out. Warhammer had their big giant line. Shadowrun had a big
Shadowrun,
line.
BattleTech.
Um,
Um,
BattleTech, Vampire had some stuff.
yeah,
Um, it always amazed me that the only novels we got were Ravagers and the Hollow Man. Ugh, Bite Boy and Bite Girl.
well,
Painful.
you know, I think our Talsorian dipped their toe in that pool, and
And then dipped right the fuck back out.
yeah, because they lost that toe. Um,
Like there's piranhas in that water, and we just threw in a bunch of meat.
yeah, and I think there's a difference between how a writer approaches things, right? So with Dungeon and Dragons, I think the first series was with Dragonlance, right? And that was Christ Wiseman and
Hickman,
Hickman,
Tracy
yeah.
Hickman, and Margaret Weiss.
Twice, yeah. Them coming and saying, "Hey, we have a
Were they
series."
the first, or were the Greyhawk books the first?
Um, I want to say that they were the first, and then
I
Gary
didn't.
might have. Yeah, so you're talking about like Gord and
Yeah, I didn't get into reading the Dungeons and Dragons based novels until basically around 2000, when third edition came out, and I got back into fantasy
yeah. So Gord came out
after
in
years of ignoring it.
'95, or sorry, '85. So that was them, and Dragonlance probably came out around the same time.
No, I always preferred the Forgotten Realms. The Dragonlance books were just kind of
Yeah, Dragonlance was '84.
too high fantasy for me, I guess. Like Forgotten Realms just seemed a little bit grittier. I'm a Conan fan, so that's gonna always tint my bias.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I grew up reading all the Robert E. Howard stuff. You know, a lot of Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser by Fritz Lieber, and very low magic stuff. So, like the Dragonlance was just too on the nose of like high fantasy, lots of magic. Not there's not plenty of magic in the Forgotten Realm stuff. It just for some reason appealed to me more.
Yep. But speaking of the game, Our Talsarian, I think we haven't talked about their two last DLCs, the March and April.
No, we have not. We have not talked about this stuff for a while now. And
Yeah.
this
Yeah, because we started in,
interviewing.
into our interviews back in March 15th, I think is when we started doing all the interviews. And we just got right into them and didn't really discuss too much beforehand.
We get excited.
Yeah, we did.
Um, it's been interesting stuff though.
Yep.
Let
So
me let
the
me pull
first
up.
one is Listen Up, which was basically GM advice on how to run games. Um,
I love the throwbacks and references to prior material.
yep. And I think that's what they do with a lot of their DLCs was giving some throwback to the old systems. But the advice is just, uh, how you can improve your game. Things like, hey, just, you know, make it up as you go along. And so there's pretty good advice there. It would be nice to see like a whole collaboration of various people in the scene to contribute to it, like they did with the original "Listen Up, You Primitive Screwheads." To have more than one point of view on how to run things, because I think that's kind of the key. If you only have one voice telling you what to do, oftentimes people will get attracted to that one voice and not go through and experience other ideas and how to think about how you create your game or how you do your play. And not all of them are right, and not all of them are wrong. So I think multiple voices is always a good thing when it comes for advice.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. Don't
Uh,
don't put all your eggs in one basket,
The other
as it
thing
were.
that Artel Sarian did was the April, which was basically, and I think, I don't know if it's tongue in cheek, or they're kind of poking fun at themselves on how Red is a little video gameish, or how tabletop RPGs have become kind of video gameish, in which you get achievements and loot
Giving you loot boxes for your tabletop game.
Yeah.
That's what the April DLC is.
So,
I mean, it makes sense that they're doing this now. I mean, if you're gonna drop something in April, it might as well be something a little goofy like this.
yep.
Uh,
And I just love the cover with the scout sash
the
with all the badges
yeah,
on it.
the Girl Scout sash. That's yeah, screaming cyborg with his merit badges. It's
The other thing that Altarsharian has been putting out of late is some sneak peeks into Danger Gal dossier. I When I read that Dave Ackerman is actually a contributor, I was happy
absolutely
that they got an
big
old school
fans of
person.
Dave.
Yep. I thought it was also cool that they had Nora Ibrahim. She
Ibrahim,
was yeah, she
something.
was a part of Christ, I forgot the name of it. The Mike Pondsmith for Gary Con with Matt. Wow, my brain is going blank.
I was gonna say I don't do the con thing, so
Serial
you're on your
killer.
own on this
Yeah,
one.
so Mike Pondsmith ran a kind of
Oh,
a celebrity game with serial
yeah, yeah.
killer
Now I know what you're talking about.
Matt. You know him if you see him. He was in Scream, the original Scream. He was in
He played serial
serial killer
killer
and
on Hackers.
Hacker. Lillard. Yes.
Matthew Lillard, yes.
Luke Gygax was in it. Um, a few other people in the industry were in it, but yeah,
Like they
she
actually
was
put
in
out
that game.
miniatures for this game, like so you can get Matthew Lillard's character from yeah,
Yep. So she was in this
like they
game,
are official.
and she's a contributor to this. Um, I actually been watching some episodes over on Glass Cannon with her in it. There's a Cthulhu series that they do that is it's pretty funny and well, I shouldn't say funny. It's entertaining. It's definitely has some
Fun.
funniness to it. If you've ever played Call of Cthulhu, it's definitely something anyone should check out. Yeah, and just it's pretty good. And then you have I know Melissa Wong. She's been a contributor and has done other things, so it's nice to see her involved. And the other name I think is Miss Magic. It's Magitech. She's also a streamer who's done a few things for the game. So it's nice to see all these different contributors involved with it.
Yeah. Bring in new blood, bring in old blood. Just mix it all together and let's see what we can get. Anything that grows the franchise and keeps the tabletop game alive, I'm all for. And anytime that they get these highly talented people working on it, it is always going to come across as it's always going to be a worthwhile product.
So hopefully that's
I'm
going to be coming out soon. I believe
yeah,
a
very
few
much
months late,
forward to it.
but it is what it is.
In this day and age, especially at my age, I don't. As long as it comes out eventually, I'm happy.
Yep.
It doesn't need to be a quick, speedy thing. Uh, I can appreciate a wait. Let it age a little bit, like fine wine or cheese.
Yeah, but we're in the digital age. Everything is immediate now. Gimme, 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 gimme. Satisfy
It's yeah,
my
used to that.
thirsts immediately. So it's very hard to wait. But yeah, I think the next thing from what we talked with James was the Cyberpunk 2077 or the Edgerunners supplement, which
Yeah, they're
by
still being super
yeah
tight-lipped about that.
they are. So I don't know how public that is, but I have a feeling that there's probably going to be some things at Gen Con around that.
Oh, I would very much assume so, which is why I'm jealous of you getting to go. But yeah, to me that would make the most sense is to announce new stuff at Gen Con. That's
Yeah.
typically the way things are done. Um, I was actually kind of surprised that they didn't announce it like the day after they were on like on our show, because that also seems to be the way things are done sometimes.
Yeah,
When
so that's coming
when
in.
James Hutt was on the show, and then like can't talk about it, and then the next day, big announcement.
Well, again, it's all about dates and
It's
lining up
oh yeah,
things. So
oh yeah, not upset about it at all. Just like
we got to say, hey, give
let
us
us know
hints.
after the show.
Yeah, give us hints. Any
Give us
juicy
hints.
gossip. Um, but yeah, so I'm actually going to be at Gen Con. I will be running games for Altos Orion. So if you're going to it, I will be there. Also, Rob from Cyberpunk Nation Uncensored, he'll be there too, and a few others. So we might be doing some type of meetup at there. Just hang out, chill out, talk about Cyberpunk, talk about whatever. Maybe get a drink or two. We'll see. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Me and three other guys that I know, we're all gonna cram into a car and drive out there and hang out. And
Sounds pretty awesome.
yeah, I haven't been in at least 20 years because I went when it was in Milwaukee. So I haven't been since we moved to Indianapolis. And when I was in Milwaukee, I had a pretty good time. Although
Make
that
sure to take lots of pictures.
I'll try to remember. I'm not a great picture taker. That's the only problem.
Yeah. At least get pictures of whatever our Talsorian's doing. So we can share that with our audience here.
Yep. Also, so,
On
go ahead.
further news, the Combat Zone uh, board game is, or miniatures game is finally getting ready to ship. So everybody who joined in on the Kickstarter of that,
I don't think it's
get ready.
not getting ready to ship. I think it has been loaded onto a boat.
Well, yeah, it's been the manufacturers are shipping it to what's the name of the company? Anyway, they're shipping it to the company who will then be shipping it out from
Yep.
there.
So,
So stage one shipping is done, and we're just waiting for them to. Yeah, it's in the final stages. We can see the finish line. We're going to get our product, and it looks beautiful. They've shared images. I've actually been pretty impressed. It's the only thing I've ever kickstarted before, and they've been fairly good about keeping us updated on what's going on.
yeah. Compared to Gangs of Night City, I haven't seen. Maybe they put out an update, but I haven't seen any updates of late.
I haven't heard anything about that at all, but
Yeah,
it just
so
seems to kind of
last
fallen
update they
off.
did was April 28th.
Oh, I guess that's not too long ago. It's a
So it
couple
looks
of
like
weeks.
they're still they're still coming up with design and graphics. So I have a feeling it's going to be a little
Monster
while.
Fight Club.
Yeah, Monster Fight Club is
That was
Combat Zone.
that was the name of that's the name of the Combat Zone
Cool.
creators there.
And for the Cyberpunk 2077 Gangs of Night City, that is Cool Minis or not. I'm surprised it's taking them so long because they've done many campaigns before. It just seems like they're dragging their feet on this one.
Plastic bits take time.
True, and I think with the release, they hit a lot of benchmarks that they weren't prepared to hit. But it definitely
I
looks
mean,
great
who'd
for
have thought?
miniatures. So the miniatures are big enough that you could probably use on your tabletop with regular tabletop RPG. So, anything else around the community?
I think that about covers it media wise.
No?
Um, I'm not aware of anything popping up that we haven't covered. I'm sure there is. I'm sure as soon as the show ends, I will get hit with just a flood of why didn't I mention this? But for
Right,
now, that's all I can think of.
right. If you want to continue talking, I just gotta step out. I hear one of my cats having problems, and I need to.
Oh, go take care of the
Yeah,
kitty. I will continue
right.
ranting.
I'll be right back. Sorry about
Um,
that.
Nothing's promised. Nothing is set in stone yet, but we are talking to several people for more interviews, including well, I probably shouldn't mention any names because that's some counting chickens before they're hatched situations. But we're trying to get people. We're oh hell, I don't care. I'm trying to line up interviews with Thaddeus Howes, Mike Jackson, Craig Sheely. I'm trying to get all these people. Um, if anybody out there has any lines or anybody that they want to see us interview, please let us know. We're definitely trying to work our way up the ladder to Mike Pondsmith, as well as Lisa. That's just kind of a pipe dream at the moment, but we're trying to get there. Um, yeah, I think eventually we're going to start interviewing some of the old school Cyberpunk website masters. Uh, just show them a little love. I'd like to get maybe Chris Conkle on here, or um, damn, my brain is completely clouding over.
Mortimer.
The website master, yeah, Mortimer, the guy behind Tulsa 2020,
Oh yeah, Night Flyer.
Night Flyer. That's my brain was just turning to mush in absence of anything else going on. Yeah, and maybe eventually we can like start trying to talk to some of the modders for 2077. Like I don't know any of them, but uh, Cybersmily does. Uh,
I can definitely reach out to someone and find out. So
yeah,
yeah,
so expect more interviews. We're always trying to give love to people who deserve the love, but have not been focused on quite as much. Um, Interviewing some people who need to be interviewed. We need to hear their stories.
most definitely. Right. So kind of did quite a bit of catch up. So tonight we were going to actually do a little bit of our first take on Black Chrome
Yeah.
and discuss a little bit about our takes on the new stuff, how we feel about it, whether we like it,
Preface
and
up
how to
front.
implement it.
I mean, I know I'm still primarily a 2020 player. I do have Black Chrome, um, but expect my opinion as always to be flavored from a 2020 standpoint, as opposed to somebody who is now playing primarily in red based campaign.
Yep.
Just a little warning up.
And like I said during the interview with James, is I seem to always almost start either being a player or running it, and something always seems to happen in which I don't get to sink my teeth into it, because my players right now are very hardcore 2020 players, so it's very hard to get them into it. But I'm working on it, as it were. The other problem is I also play Call of Cthulhu, Traveler. There's another role playing game I'm playing at now too, and some wargaming on the weekend. So it's kind of tough to juggle in and get the players to come to a consensus. They have not announced any release dates for 2077s yet.
Yeah, Craig Horst has this question.
Yeah.
It would be nice to see it in August. I mean, that's my birth month, and seeing it come out on the anniversary of the tabletop games canon for the Arasaka incident, that would be awesome. But there has been no official word of any kind as to when the update might be. It is, I mean, they are talking about starting the push for it next month, so it's a possibility. It is definitely not outside the realm of things to happen. But we're just all going to have to wait and see on that. They're still being tight-lipped. We're still waiting on, as we said earlier in the show, we're still waiting on the next big update patch to come out, which should happen before Phantom Liberty drops. So
Yeah, I have a feeling that if you get the patch within the next few weeks, you'll be seeing the expansion hitting the shelves. But yeah, yeah,
yeah, as we said earlier, like CDPR learned their lesson. It appears, and they're not releasing any kind of they're not dropping any kind of release date. It appears until they're sure that it can drop then
and
and that it's ready.
I wouldn't be surprised if they do a release date of August 20th, 2023, just because of how their delivery has gone so far, right? So they originally
Yeah,
announced or basically what they put out was the advertisement for hiring developers back in 2013, and then they released the game in 2020. Granted, they should have waited, but I think they wanted it to go 2020 because they wanted to basically pay Mike his respects, in
yeah,
that game.
coincide with Cyberpunk 2020. So it's definitely not outside the realm of possibility. Uh, I would imagine one or the other will probably drop in August, um, just because, yeah, they tend to take advantage of these dates.
Yep. So, getting into Black Chrome. So, the layout is kind of similar to the old Chromes, right? In which they try to present it as like an in-game catalog to shop from.
Yeah,
Their concept here was specifically as a mobile app, in which you start digging into and finding the gear. And there's a lot of lore behind this, right? In which you go to a night market and the app is already set up and tells you where to go to find your stuff in the market, and how much it's going to cost, etc. So the sections we have are apps, cyberware, fashion and armor, general goods, linear frames, which is interesting that they put linear frames as one whole topic, vehicles and weapons. So those are the categories. Um,
And then towards the end, there's an extra bit on economics, night
yep.
markets, and black chrome lists. Like overall, the book is laid out fairly well.
Yes.
I like again that, like you said, it goes back to it being a catalog, uh, laid out like a Sears wish book for the cyberpunk age.
Yep. And as Jay Gray has pointed out, if you scroll through the pages, you continue to see the battery dying, as it were,
Yeah,
which is a nice little
it's
touch.
a nice little touch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of like the computerized, like when they tried to set it up as scream sheets for some of the old supplements.
Yep.
Uh, it very much falls along those.
Yeah. So we get into apps. The first app that they present is Digital Gladiator, which looks like it's a computer game. So it has no necessary. Well, it kind of has some game mechanics around it, in that you can cause damage to somebody if you play them with this game.
Yeah, it's falling along the lines of elf lines. They're pushing. I like the push for like entertainment options in the cyberpunk world. Like that is a dose of lore off to the side that just it makes the world seem more alive to me. Because you can't be fighting people all the time. It can't always be serious. People got to get their downtime. They got to play their video.
You also have an app called Fortify or
I think
Fortify.
that's supposed to be Fortify.
Fortify? No, yeah. There you go.
Um, yeah, it's
A little app to help you crack a safe, as it were, or a door, or any type of structure, which is an interesting app.
now now I like the little blurb afterwards where it's like this app is absolutely useless for its intended purposes, but if you spend 5 minutes scanning a section, you do gain a plus 1d6 to damage done against it. Like that's a nice touch. Like it's junkware that they've included in the game, but it still has a purpose. Um, which is, yeah, it's these little things that I love.
I'm surprised that they didn't make this into like an MU of costs to install on your agent.
Yeah, I mean that would make sense, but at the same time, I think they're with these apps, they're not necessarily net running tools per se, as much as they are just like phone apps that
Mm.
you can pull out. Like the next one, the NCPD crime database. Uh, Now you can like search, through facial recognition, through name. You just have access to that resource, which I don't know if I would necessarily let my players have that so easily, but it definitely is something that's there. And I guess in today's world, these records, I mean, it's all public records anyway. So
Yep.
yeah, there are enough real world analogous programs out there and websites and whatnot to let you access, criminal databases and credit scores and all that. That yeah, it makes sense to have it in the game, and it makes sense to have it here. I'm
Yep.
glad that they put something down.
Then we have the Trauma Team Med Scan. Um, So, gigs and trauma teams.
In the days of teledoc, this makes perfect sense. But the idea that you just take a picture of your wound and send it to a doctor and they tell you what to do, I don't know how useful that would be in the field. Yeah, that's a great big gaping hole in your leg there. You should probably wrap something around.
Well, to me, it should like include that you have a biomonitor, right? That'll
That would help.
give the statistics and the information about your current health. And of course, go ahead.
I'm gonna say it moves from there to the Ziggurat City database. This is it's basically your tourist info.
Yeah.
It's Google Street Maps mixed with your basic tourist information center, which is a good thing to have. I've handled very similar things in the past in my games with local information data chips and whatnot. So it's good that it's here. Everybody needs a readily accessible information guide for their local area.
Yep. And then we get into
Like all these apps are,
yeah.
I was just going to say, all these apps are really simple concepts that, you look at them and like, yeah, that's obvious. But how many times in our games have we looked at something outside the game that was obvious, but never thought to include it in a game? So I like this section.
Or even take today's apps and or today's functionalities that you always have in your hand. How do you translate that into game mechanics? Which is always an issue, I think, for some people to like do that conversion, right? Whether or not to give it too much of a bonus or not enough bonus.
I remember reading in several of the books where, there are certain sections of Night City that because they change so often due to, damage or just constant construction that they're unmappable. But with these apps and user supported content, these maps they would either be on top, like tip top, you can totally reliable, or if you think about it like Wikipedia and them being user supported, it could very easily lead into traps. Like people, nefarious groups get on there, create routes that lead you directly into whatever spider web of deceit and treachery that they've got set up for you.
Yep.
I like this app. I see multiple or just a myriad of role playing possibilities there.
Yep. So then we get into cyberware section. I don't want to be a bad person, but the one thing I kind of dislike about this section is that they put kind of all the cyberware into like the Da Vinci's Man kind of illustration and not show each individual piece in the various sections like they've done with previous chromes, right? To understand, okay, this is what this looks like. Instead, you have to look at the diagram, look at the number, look it up on their chart to figure out, okay, that's what that looks like, and then go down a few pages and find that piece of tech to kind of go back and forth between what it looks like and what you're reading about,
Yeah, I get what they're going for here. I like the concept of it, but it is one of the more difficult sections of the book to navigate in terms of, matching, getting the mental image for the specific piece of tech that you're looking for.
Yep. the things I do like is, they upgraded a lot of the 2020 cyberware and bringing
Oh
that
yeah,
in. Also, the whole concept of discounted and budgeted types of cyberware, which the old system did have, I think in Chrome 3 when it had the retrograde.
yeah.
But with
But
this, go ahead.
I was gonna say, Mike Van Atta, regular of the View from the Edge forums, created uh, two documents for like retro cyberware and cheap full board conversions that really went into this. Um, Plus, they gave new rules for cybernetics and how humanity loss is affected and various quality grades. Like it's a really fantastic uh, website article. You can find it on Datafortress. But the only problem with all that was cybernetics had only been around for like 10, 15 years, really. So there wasn't a lot of legacy to cybernetics yet.
Mm,
Now in the 2040s, there's a ton of legacy.
yep.
Uh, so this really makes a lot of sense.
Yes, most definitely. So let's get into it. So the first item is the budget cyberware socket, which, reading its description as well as the game mechanics, is pretty funny. That if it takes, or if you get hit in the head, that the chips can come flying out at like 30 meters, which is like 90 feet, which is a crazy distance. That's,
Yeah.
a third of a football field of this thing getting jettisoned out.
I
But,
mean, are they spring loaded? What the hell's going on here?
well, you have that little, how was it, the SD cards and how they work, in which you click it and then click it
Sure.
again to pop it out.
But I mean, like, that distance is better than most Nerf guns get. So I'm going to
True.
load up my chipware socket with Nerf darts.
Hell, not Nerf darts, real darts with neurotoxin on them.
Ooh. That's actually a really good idea. That's living on the street, buddy. Yeah, that is high tech, low life right there.
You find a purpose. The next piece is Borg hardened shielding. So there's quite a bit of pieces of shielding throughout, scattered throughout this. So it's nice to see. It's interesting that they take that approach of each piece, and each piece
Yeah.
taking a slot. So,
Well, I
uh,
mean,
good.
EMPs and microwavers and just electrical damage are so devastating to cyberware in 2020 that it's nice that it gets this level of attention in red.
Yep.
Plus, with the whole, I don't want to say, as we mentioned earlier, some of these red is highly influenced by the video game,
Mm.
where you can hack individual cybernetics and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the supplement for, or the expansion for Edgerunner supplement in 2077.
I'm very much looking forward to see how they handle quick hacks.
Mm.
Uh, and hacking individuals. That's like in 2020, most of the stuff wasn't connected to anything other than maybe your Times Square marquee.
Yeah.
So in red, it's a much more connected world as far as cybernetics goes. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Sorry for sidetracking, but I'm watching the video playback of the montage I created for while we were talking, and I'm just realizing how well they did a cigarette in Cyberpunk 2077 with the smoke.
Yeah, it looks good.
Anyways, um, back to Black
I like
Pearl.
the smoke follows the cigarette as it moves.
Well, it follows it and also dissipates like a real cigarette does. Um,
Yeah,
so you don't necessarily, you only see the smoke when it's at rest, as it were. But I just amazed that they took that amount of detail as opposed to just having smoke constantly coming out of it. Um, Kudos, developers. You actually studied how people smoke, or how some people smoke, because I think that fad is going away. Um, so we get into discounted cyber audio. Um, Again, it just looks like it just reduces how much you can have, and to me it seems like it takes a little bit of was that the Soviet wear from 2020, in which it's big and
yeah, it's
blocky.
just some budget stuff.
Yep. Then you have the modular finger cyber hand. I thought this was quite interesting in that you can get up to 8 cyber fingers. Um, I've actually watched a couple videos in which they create a augmented finger for your hand, like an opposable thumb, an additional thumb, and people trying to learn how to use it. And it's weird that how quickly the human mind can adjust to pick that skill up, as it were. Um, but then again, you also have the limitation of how many fingers you can really have on a hand to make it functional.
Yeah, I mean, modular cyber fingers from Dynalar were part of the 2020 stuff. It's nice to see that make a comeback, but yeah, the additional fingers and thumbs, it's nice to see options like this.
Yes, I actually watched.
Again,
Go ahead.
I don't know what kind of benefit having 8 fingers would do for you. 2 thumbs, I can see. 2 thumbs, that makes sense. 8 fingers, just like, I don't know, seems like it would kind of get in the way. Although, for a professional masseuse, that would probably be a big tip earner right there.
Well, there's a family, and I forget which country they're from. Spain, Portugal, Brazil.
Oh, where they're all polydactyl and
Yeah, they all have 6 fingers.
yeah.
And it's not like
I mean, it happens.
yeah, and it's not like they have a malformed finger. It's a fully
Mm-mm.
fleshed out finger, and it looks like a normal hand.
Like full functional, just has an
Yep.
extra finger. The palm is a little bit wider. That's all.
Yeah. So, um, and it was interesting hearing them talk about it. It's just like, yeah, why aren't all humans having 6 fingers? But yeah, so the cyber fingers definitely love to see how they brought that back into the fold. Um,
I could really see this being useful for musicians.
yep. Well, just because you have individual fingers and cyberpunk with individual fingers, you always ran out of. I only got 5. Now you can get up to 8 per hand, so that's 16.
Yeah, your cyber options, and plus they're all on. You can put them all on quick change mounts, so you can just have a belt full of fingers.
Most definitely. And always carry the was it the laser finger or the pistol finger or the dart finger? Carry a bunch of those so you can reload.
Yeah, always got to have a thumb lighter. You always have to have a thumb lighter. That's the coolest piece of cyberware in the books.
Yep. So they also have a explicit memory simulator, which helps with concentration rolls when it comes to memory, which I kind of like. It's definitely something I would see my characters trying to pick up, just because how in real life I have a shitty memory at times, and would
Oh
love
yeah,
to have this thing.
yeah. It also gives GMs and players like the the GM knows the player has this information, but the player may not remember it.
Yep.
So you can just say, "Throw me a concentration check," and I'll share that information with you, and this makes that a little bit easier.
Another throwback to 2020 is the extra joints Cyberlim upgrade,
Yeah,
so you can become a contortionist. The next piece is a particular cyberware I'm kind of fond of, which is the flash bulb. Um, I've used it
yeah, that
plenty.
was a Chromebook one. I mean,
I
it's
thought,
nice. Again, it's nice to see this old stuff make a comeback.
yep. I just loved it because not many players usually had cyber optics, and they would either
In
go for,
particular, the
yeah,
anti-dazzle option. Like,
exactly. So just to always have something to use against the players that point to a weakness, because one of the other problems with a lot of, especially with 2020, was the SP creep, right? In which bullets really didn't do anything. So you always look for alternatives to show that the players, no matter what you do, there's always a weakness that I can poke at and basically lay you down. Um,
yeah,
and I think a lot of, especially new GMs, will always turn to, well, I just got to get bigger guns. No, there's other ways in which you can screw with your players and teach them that doesn't matter how much armor you have, stuff can still affect you and lay you low very quickly with little or no effort. So, moving along, you have another piece of hardening, specifically for your eyes. Um,
uh, we've already hit uh, the hour and 18-minute mark on this. Do we want to break this up into two, or do we just want to pick like some highlights for each section?
I don't know. What do you want? What do you feel like? Do you? Because I think with the weapons, there's quite a bit of weaponry that we can
Yeah, I think
discuss
maybe we should probably
two-part.
uh, if we do a two-part, I don't know when we're going to get back to it, depending on who we get
True.
lined up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
So let's hit the highlights then.
yeah, let's hit the highlights.
All right. So any other cyberware that you liked uh, or
I
bounces at you?
I mean there is. Um, I like the reflex coprocessor.
Yes. Yes, definitely. And I
Uh,
can see a lot of players taking that.
yeah, I mean it doesn't on the surface it doesn't really seem to do much, but uh, I mean with Cyberpunk Red it lets you dodge bullets
Yep.
basically.
Without the
Um,
need of the stat.
Now, I mean, I'll say it out loud. I think dodging bullets is kind of silly, but with the direction red is gone, it makes perfect sense with in that context. It makes perfect sense. Like in 2020, it's not something I would ever allow, but in red, yeah, that's it's just part of the game. Um, I like the racer bracer. Uh, you can't you can't get whiplash while wearing it from car accidents and whatnot. I like that. Like if you're a driver, that makes perfect sense.
And as you're a Nomad fan, I'm sure you that says some
I like
relatability
the
to you.
yeah, I like the trauma response nanomatrix a lot. Um, it's just an internal cybernetic device, basically a cache of nanites that repair your skin weave or your subdermal armor. I that's again, it's not necessarily something that would work with in the manner it does. It's not something that would necessarily work with 2020, but in red, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So I liked the reflex coprocessor because I can see a lot of players using that, and I know I would. As for the other stuff, to me, I just love the fingers because I used to look at Chrome 2 and just figure out what were the
Oh yeah,
best fingers. And the whole quick change amount, you can have that one shot special and just quickly flip it out and use it as like kind of ammo.
I like I like the CG art of the cyber fingers, the eight
Yes.
digit cyber hands. Um, it's very like old school budgeted looking cyberware. Like the I don't know if you ever had one of those cyber hand toys that like they were like grabber toys.
Yes.
It reminds me of that. But yeah, it's nice having a visual representation of anything.
Yep. Um, yeah, so that's about it for cyber. Um, Fashion and armor, there's quite a bit of pieces. Mostly they're just outfits. And granted, I know a few of my players have complained about the 2020 system with fashion wear and how kind of Chrome 4 really changed the scene. Um, and I have, oh my
With
god, so many
like with
players.
layered armor and
Well,
whatnot.
the layered armor, you got like, um, not specifically like the what they can armor, right? Like a headscarf that's SP 18 or some craziness. It's like a
The
headscarf is
headscarf was
not.
like
Well,
SP6 or it was
no,
ridiculous.
it was at least you could get to 12, which is basically you can prevent a 9 millimeter from hurting you, which got
Yeah, I mean at that point it's
ridiculous.
not really a scarf. It's just a metal plate with a fucking like sewed onto a bandana,
Yeah,
basically.
and basically it got to the point where especially power gamers
Oh yeah.
would just use the system to basically make themselves invulnerable. So oftentimes I would have to pull out the other tricks like the flash bulb or a vault pistol that ignores all armor, and telling him, "Yep, this is what you're going to get. You think you can armor yourself up? Go ahead, spend so many thousands of EB on your armor. Guess what? I am going to wreck you."
Yeah.
But they still don't
There's
learn the
always ways.
lesson, you know.
No, they never do.
So, as for the armor and black chrome, um, I would say nothing really jumps out as spectacular to me. I like the fluff around each of them, particularly with the earlier versions of the Chromebooks, right, in which they had Gibson Battle Gear, the Tanaka corporate wear, New Tech.
I like that V's coat makes makes the cut is included in the game.
Yes,
Um,
and even the Netrunner suit makes the cut too.
yeah. I mean, it's fashion.
Yep.
At the end of the day, most people aren't going to focus too heavily on what people are wearing because while style over function is a part of the theme of the game, in reality, in most people's games, it's gonna function's definitely gonna take the front seat.
Hmm.
Um, but it's nice to have these to work with as guidelines and move from there. Uh, I like fashion in games. I like representations.
Yep.
So yeah, this works.
Yep. Then we get into the gear. Uh, there's quite a few pieces for your rocker. Guitar, some speakers, a mic, which kind of helps. I think definitely shows, and the Chromebooks used to have little pieces for each class, as it were. I really like that they brought the Drink Master back.
I love the Drink Master. I want one of those in my house.
Yeah. The Jeeves garment bag, which it does the nice cleaning of your fashion and your accessories. I could
Yeah,
definitely have.
stuff like this that has no real in-game benefit, but you know that if it really existed, you'd love this shit. Every closet would have one.
You also have the security dog, a bunch of survival stuff, which I think is geared towards the nomads.
Yeah. Um, I like the street case, uh, which is basically like your typical James Bond style briefcase, just loaded down with goodies.
Yeah. And then in the second section, you have linear frames, similar to Cyberpunk 2020. It's nice that they actually put graphics to it and what each level of linear frame kind of would look like, and how it would compare to the previous version. Like the Ultra one is the ELF4NT. That looks like a beast.
Yeah. I mean, I very much like the way they did this, where it really is just like everybody seems to think that these are something you could implant under your skin, and you can't put a linear frame under your skin. It is very much the Elysium style uh, exterior exosuit that you just happen to jack into as well.
Yep.
And you're right. The EL4NT is a monster. It's not quite as big as the power loader from Aliens, but it's
Mm.
very much inspired.
Oh, there's. I think they're starting to get close towards power ACPA's.
Yeah.
You know.
James wouldn't commit to that, but it definitely seems that they're gearing up for the reintroduction of ACPA and full conversions.
Yep. So then we get into vehicles. There's a few pieces, or sorry, a few vehicles that are kind of a throwback to the 2020s. First, you have a bunch of air vehicles, which are mostly helicopters in the beginning, and then a bunch of AVs.
Yeah. Um,
The
the
AV,
only problem I have with these AVs is
they're too boxy, in my opinion.
they're too boxy, and like the Zetatech destination,
Yeah.
I don't know how that's supposed to work. I don't know how that's supposed to stay aloft.
Well, how are AVs supposed to stay aloft?
I mean, it's vector thrust, and you can see the thrust nozzles from it, but I don't know. They're calling it an AV4, but it's really like these are AV7s. Like
Yeah,
personal use aerodynes are definitely in the AV7 category.
yeah, because it
AV4s are your big boxy minivan
yeah
things.
that you can turn into whatever you need to. Um, the I don't know how to present that.
Heracles,
Heracles.
the
Yeah,
Zetatech Heracles.
that looks like an
That starts to
AV4.
move. Yeah, that's a beast, and it very much is influenced by the video game AVs.
Yep.
Um, it's it's really badass looking. I like it.
Yeah, I remember a documentary on some of the car designers, right? Like the people who did Lamborghinis, Ferraris, and most of the concepts from those designers is, and again, I think Elon Musk with his Tesla truck kind of took those ideas and brought it to a different approach. But most of the times, the designers would take a look at nature, and nature does not have straight lines, right? And
No,
making those curves, and a lot of them took inspiration from like sharks and like aquatic animals as an inspiration on how to turn their vehicles into this, sleek looking, gorgeous piece of machinery, as it were. But yeah, this some of these designs, I don't see that kind of concept that the or car designers
yeah, the
started
the box
approaching.
look is really it's very industrial. It's
Yeah,
very no frills. Uh,
yeah, kind of like was it the brutal architecture?
yeah, and that Cybertruck from Tesla definitely definitely is an inspiration to a lot of this stuff. I think.
Yep.
But also like Russian, yeah, like the Russian brutalist designs. Um,
So you get into the
yeah,
land
so
vehicles. You definitely see a lot of the inspiration from 2077 with some of these
yeah,
vehicles. I love the Grundy with the plow in the front. Definitely a nomad car.
yeah, the Grundy is badass.
Um,
It's I like that the plow uh has the lift mechanism on it. Uh, so when you're driving around off road, you can get it out of your way. Um, but then when you need it, it's there.
yep.
I'd like to see what it looks like in the raised position. But
Yeah, so there's a bunch of different bikes, a bunch of different cars and vehicles. I like that they included the mega hauler if you're looking to do a long distance campaign. The one item that really kind of stood out as kind of unique that presenting in red is the Jet Boy hoverboard. Kind of reminds me
yeah,
of like the Green Goblin.
the mega hauler is basically the ramp truck, the Phantom Wedge from Cyberpunk, or not Cyberpunk, from Grand Theft Auto, or that truck that the MythBusters crew built up to just basically run through anything. It's got that giant plow on the front. It's a monster. But the sky or the skyboard is super bad. It's it's very much like Green Goblin's thing. It's a Goblin glider or whatever it was called.
Also, I can see that being used for like NCPD's Street patrol.
I like the Zacontsily pickup truck with the giant camper shell in the back, like the two-level camper shell.
Yep.
That is some absolute definite nomad, like, gotta have this. This you live forever out here.
Needs to have some more, what are the Griblies on it, like a
Yeah.
tank for water and maybe a little biosphere hooked to the side.
Oh yeah. I could. Um, I like both the muscle car representations. They're
Mm.
very cool. Like the Paladin 500 is obviously like a 1972 Ford Falcon, just with some pretty lights on it. Um, I don't know what the Thunder X is supposed to be, but it's badass looking. I could see, several of my characters driving that. Uh,
But yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said, the things that kind of stood out for me in this section was the Jet Boy hoverboard and the Mega Hauler. I could see definitely either I could base a campaign around the Mega Hauler.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a wide variety of vehicles. Perhaps a wider variety than in any other section. I really like what they did with most of the vehicles.
Yep.
And while a couple of them have that boxy design, most of them are varied enough that uh, they're varied enough that you're never going to run out of ideas. You're never going to run out of inspiration.
Yep. So the next section is weapons.
Oh boy.
Weapons start off with grenade section, which I kind of liked. I mean, there's definitely a lot of selections of type of grenades. I like how some of them are sabotage-ware, like the kill
Yeah.
chip and the outlet explosive. The outlet explosive reminds me of a game I was in which one of the players, so we were contracted to do a hit on somebody. One of the players I thought was ingenious. Basically, what he did was he went around, we got into the person's apartment and he took C6 and stuck it in all the light fixtures. So when the person tried to turn on the lights, kaboom.
Oh shit. That's a pretty good idea.
And then, of course, the next game,
Yeah.
I was a bodyguard for a corporate, and they're like, "Oh yeah, so you guys walk into the apartment. Do you turn on the lights?" I'm like, "God damn you!" So it kind of always haunted me as a player. That okay, we're doing this in an NPC. Now that the GM knows that trick, is the GM going to do it against us? But yeah, it's a good selection
That's
of
always the
explosives in this.
that's always the fear when being clever is, man, I've got a really great idea, but if he turns around and uses it against me later, I'm going to be so sad. I mean, I like a lot of these weapons. I will say overall that I think some of them are just kind of goofy. Uh,
Oh come on! Not all of them are goofy. I mean, the
not all
crowd
of them.
buster with the big bullhorn,
I mean,
or the nomad rocker.
sure. Uh, you got your Buster sword.
Mm.
I'm not. Um, I, I love the idea of the Rhino Fist, although I'm not sure what practical application that could ever have.
Well, it's kind of like the what was that?
It's
Piece
like
of
a
cyber.
jackhammer
Yeah,
attached to your arms.
but kind of like
Um,
the arc wielder from
oh
the
yeah, the
drawing
arc
books. Yeah,
welder. Yeah.
that's what it kind of reminds me of. Is just some hulking bodyguard in the back of some like 2-bit fixer comes out wearing this thing. Um, if it had attack 2, you could see
I
them having both arms like with these things.
I love the idea of the Magna Knuckles that, you're basically brass knuckles with an electromagnetic pulse attached to
Hmm.
them. Like that's a really cool concept. I'm not sure how it would work. Uh, I don't know. The idea of accidentally messing up your own stuff would be high, but if you're a low cybernetics user, like these would be your go-to.
Yep.
A a fleshy martial arts character equipped with these would be devastating.
Yes. Yeah. The other thing I thought was pretty interesting was the introduction of a boomerang. Um, and by the way, the graphics for most of these weapons are pretty. I like them. I know, you know, some of them are as good as others, but I think overall, I think the 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 images are well done.
I mean, all throughout the book, the art is top notch. Um, the Tasmansky Clo basically Wolver gloves. Um, I My only problem with that is how long they are. It doesn't
Well, it's
like
from
they don't retract, I guess, but
yeah, but it's from like Slam Dance and Slam Dance, even in the
Slam Dance likes to be over the top. It's true.
well, they like to be over the top, but if you remember the Spawn Blade, you know, they're working with types of metals that expand and contract and change form. So I could see them creating something in which you pull this thing out and the claws go super long because of the technology that they're using, whether it's some type of nanite feasibility. I could see them breaking a lot easier,
All right,
but
I have to talk about it. I can't ignore it. The Kondachi Monostar.
yeah,
Uh, Now, on the surface, it sounds really cool. It's it's a mono shuriken. It's a motorized mono shuriken, but in reality, I don't see how it could ever work. It's okay. A mono shuriken, its ball bearing center conceals a tiny solar kinetic capture power cell that hums while the star spins up between the fingers of the wielder. In a second, the weapon is spinning at full speed and begins to vibrate. Uh, I don't know unless you had specific like special cyber fingers just to like hold this thing.
yeah,
I don't see how it could ever work. And as a throwing weapon, like the spinning center would actually counteract the balance, so it wouldn't actually turn. It'd be like a helicopter without the tail rotor. It's not going anywhere.
yep,
So basically, what this ends up being is a motorized fidget spinner with razor blades that would be more dangerous to the user than anybody else.
yeah. Because as soon as you,
Uh,
if you were holding it and you tried to slice somebody, just them and the impact would push that into your own hand, and you would lose all
yeah,
4 fingers.
yeah. I don't see how this could ever work in any manner, other than like if you're like
Yeah, I would just throw these. I would not
if
use
you're
them as a melee weapon.
yeah. But even throwing them like I don't get what the spinning is supposed to do because like that's not how a thrown weapon works. Like you
True.
can like yeah, it's not very. Every time I look at it, my brain hurts. I'll just say that. Um, but yeah, my theory is it's just for like ADHD kids who are feeling particularly, self harmful.
Most definitely. Um, yeah, and then you get into the rifles. Uh, I like that they have one that's kind of a combination crossbow rifle. So,
I love the concept of this, and the art looks really cool. Um, it's a really awesome concept, but the only problem I have with it is you have to use your archery skill to use it. Um,
even as a firearm?
yeah, even as a firearm. Uh, it's incapable of auto fire, only has 10 shots in his magazine, and is fired with the archery skill instead of shoulder arms, despite firing bullets. Like, I don't, that just seemed like a really weird thing to add.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, you could easily house rule that out. Um, Other than that, it's a really cool image. It's a really cool concept. That's, in fact, probably my favorite of the new weapons.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has some looks to it, and I think all the weapons are kind of unique looking, you know? Um, and to me, it seems like a few of them are very Spartan looking just because of the concept of what red is, right? Is
Yeah.
not so much high tech as anymore as trying to cobble together some type of weapon and get it sold.
Yeah. And some of these you look at and like the Georgia Arms Matchmaker. Why does that even, like, it looks like something somebody cobbled together out of like plumbing supplies. I'm not sure why. The idea of hand making weapons is very cool. I don't know why it would have a manufacturer attached to it, but sure.
Yeah, but a manufacturer is just a person in the local area that's making this weapon for the nomad market, right?
Yeah, yeah, I get that. That works. That makes sense.
Because if you think about how the corporations have kind of like turned into not necessarily subsidiaries, but they're all the local branches became their own corporations, right? They didn't have a home office anymore. So it's interesting to see that. And again, it's a Georgia Arms could be, this guy in the back of a truck creating these things and
It very well could be. It very well could, and most likely is, because I mean that definitely looks like they just took some pipes and soldered them together.
he's probably a Jode.
So yeah,
Yeah. And I know.
it is Saturday night special.
Yeah. And then of course a lot of the weapons have that 2077 look to them. Specifically the Beast shotgun, I think has a definitely a tech weapon look from 2077 to it.
Yeah, I really dug oh, the Hades multi-purpose assault shotgun. Like that has a really cool look to it.
Yeah. It also
I don't
looks
know
like
what
a
the
beast to wield.
yeah, like that's like those are one of those things you give up if it's pointed at you.
Yeah. Um,
While the beast shotgun looks more like some kind of railgun type thing.
yeah. I think we talked a little bit about the Militech Mastiff SMG with the elongated barrel
The
and the
shotgun
Yeah,
underbarrel, yeah.
I would see the shotgun being a little, a little shorter than what they depict in the picture.
It does look kind of unwieldy.
Yeah, looks forward heavy, which is not a good thing for a weapon. Um,
There's the Militech Perseus, which the idea of it having like a brace on it is
yeah,
really cool. I like that option. Although then they go around, they list it as holding 11 shots when it's clearly a 6 round cylinder or 5 round cylinder.
mm. Well, the
No,
brace
that might only
kind
be a
of
4 round.
reminds
I mean,
me
it's a
of
revolver.
what was that show? Was it Incorporated? No, there was some cyberpunk movie or show in which the smart guns were basically a brace like that, in which it kind of guided your hand. I'm trying to
Yeah,
remember what 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 was that.
I I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about, but it's the name of the show escapes me.
but that's what that
I can
reminds
see
me
the
of.
close up on it.
Yep. Moving down the list, I kind of like the Nomad Rocker. I know you're
It,
on the fence of
it,
that.
it
Listen, I used to play Warhammer Fantasy role playing, so a blunderbuss was always the weapon of choice.
I
And
mean, it's neat. Like it's a good idea. Uh, some of these, I literally just have to like turn off my brain to make them work. Um, I don't want to claim to be a gun guy necessarily, but yeah, I mean it works. Uh, and it's only one shot, so it makes sense. It just seems like a bit. It seems like a bit much tech wise for how simple a concept it is.
yeah,
You know what I mean? It's like the super high tech double barreled shotgun in Cyber.
yeah.
Why?
Um, we got about 8 minutes left, so any other weapon you'd like to flag out? For
Um,
me, I know it looks very simplistic and very odd looking, but the Sternmeyer MO4 variable right variable assault. I don't know.
I like it.
Yeah, it has this weird design look to it that just definitely has some type of weird fashion to it, and definitely a unique look to it.
Um, I mean, there's weapons there for every taste. I sounded overly critical, maybe. Um, I don't know that I'll ever be able to get over the motorized fidget spinner, but uh, I mean, the rest of it works. It's very in line with what Red's doing.
Yep. And then Black Chrome presents a book or a section about the economy, why the economy is the way it is, how it works, why it works, to give you kind of an understanding. Because I think some people are just like, I don't understand why, how the world works without
I mean,
the economy base that we live in today. You know.
in our review of Red, we struggled greatly trying to understand, how the economy was supposed to work. So it's nice to see them revisit it and maybe try to answer some of those
Yep.
questions. Um, I like that they give lifestyle details for at least, on your income level, what your survival looks like. You've got at the low end, you're eating kibble for 100 EB a month. Um, at the high end, you're eating fresh food for 1,500 a month. Uh, it's it was necessary. It needed this,
Yep.
and it's nice to see them go back and revisit.
So they present a bunch of different night markets at the conclusion.
This is by far my favorite section of the book. I love this section. I love that it fleshes out the night markets. If you use anything from this book at all, use this.
So
I like.
which market are you going to be heading to?
I mean, they're all neat, but I'm gonna go hang out with. Let me find it again. Um, oh, I passed it.
Wood chipper, Molly.
Wood chipper. That's the one. I'm gonna be hanging out at Wood Chipper's block party. Holy shit, is that shit cool?
Yeah, I think most of my characters will be hanging out with three piece.
Three piece is the by far the most professional looking of the group.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I love these ready-made fixers who can get you what you need. Um, I love the different representations of the vibes of various night markets. Um, I love most of the art here. Uh, Miss Mina's personal night market is really cool. Like I like the idea that it's inside a mall and they've just kind of taken it over.
Yep. Well, you got 3 minutes to 9, so I think we're kind of at time. Um, we crank this out, so one less thing we have to do in the future.
Yeah. Um, Again, the art in this book was fantastic. I like a lot of the stuff they've done with it. Um, and I like that a lot of it can be, retroactive or retrograded to use with your 2020 games,
Yep.
which is my first love always lies. Uh, I would recommend it. We waited a long time to see it, and it's here, and it's good. There's even an update for it, which adds a little bit of stuff.
Yeah, the exotics. I forgot
Well,
about that. Forgot to mention that. But yeah, the
extra fashion. Uh, Even throw in some nice little tokens at the back for you know, use on your battle maps and what.
yep.
Uh, so yeah, I definitely recommend Black Chrome. It's got a ton of contributors. It's nice to see the community coming together for this.
And I can't wait for
Yeah,
volume 2.
yeah, definitely can't wait for Volume 2 or what is it, Rusty Chrome? Uh,
Rust Chrome. Um,
yeah,
Talking with James, it seems like they're not sure exactly where they're going to go with the product lines, but it would be nice to see that again, and we'll see what happens.
yeah. I definitely think uh, the nomad community needs to be fleshed out more. Um, and would yeah, well, that's my personal jam.
Yep.
Uh, I'm very much looking forward to whatever Bartel Saurian's doing with this stuff. Like I said, anything to keep the franchise alive and ongoing, I support.
Agreed. So, with that said, thank you for listening to us two ramble on about various subjects around Cyberpunk. I am Cybersmily. You can find me at cybersmily.net. I know I haven't done a lot of updates of late. Real life and other things have been going on, so I haven't gotten back to my site quite yet. I do have ideas cooking in my brain. It's just taking pen to paper, and getting it done. So I also have my own Discord, which is there's a link on my site. I also go or am on quite a few Discord servers. I hang out, so if you do an at Cybersmily, good chance it's me if it's a Cyberpunk Discord server. I'm also on Reddit. I cruise that. More of a lurker than an actual creator, but I'm afraid I'm not on any other social media. But that's where you can check me out.
I am Wisdom000, otherwise known as Derek Bernier. You can find me at Datafortress2020, Datafortress2020.com. I'm also on Facebook under the Cyberpunk 2020 groups, as well as the Datafortress 2020 groups. I lurk Reddit. I don't hang out on Twitter. Feel free to reach out to us and with your comments, complaints, and criticism and suggestions.
Yep.
And we look forward to hearing from you. We're always grateful to anybody who's listening to us.
And definitely check out all the other Cybernation Uncensored stuff. There's a lot of live play, a lot of great stuff that Rob and a bunch of the other GMs are producing on this channel. And there's also one that they're doing or what Rob's doing on Sirenscape. Great stuff. He has a Discord server. Join that. Join the community. And I guess that's about it until next time, right?
Yeah, as always, we'd like to thank Rob and Cybernation Uncensored for hosting us. We'd like to thank you for listening in. And we look forward to seeing you. What's the next date?
It's going to be next month, June 5th, June 7th.
All right.
June 7th.
June 7th. Is that the first Wednesday? Really?
That's the first Wednesday.
Wow.
Yeah.
June 7th.
2-week hiatus.
Yeah. Hopefully I'll have somebody lined up for an interview. If not, it'll still be a good show. Thank you again for listening.
Most definitely. All right, everyone. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Cybernation Uncensored.